Hello and welcome to the Line Leaders section of Process Industry Chronicle magazine. We feel honored to introduce Mr. Janak Sheth, who is Managing Director of Century Pharmaceuticals Limited, a Baroda-based pharmaceutical company. Welcome, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, kindly introduce yourself to the readers of Process Industry Chronicle magazine, sir.
Yeah, I am Janak Sheth. I am the Managing Director of Century Pharmaceuticals Limited. We are a manufacturer of pharmaceutical active ingredients, and we have been in business for almost 40 years.
Sir, you're the first person whom I'm meeting actually who has done PhD. You have done your doctorate. And was it the compulsion of your family, or was it the need of the business?
No, this is PhD is based on my work experience and the knowledge that I have acquired in the industry, and this has been given to me as a honorable PhD from South Korean University.
Oh, congratulations, sir, actually, for that. And sir, please tell us more about your company, sir. Actually, what were the main aims behind establishing Century Pharmaceuticals Limited 40 years back?
I worked for a multinational company before I started Century Pharmaceuticals Limited, and it was my desire when I was working that we must manufacture good quality pharmaceutical products. Because India is an emerging market and there are a lot of people who don't have enough medication. So there is a need for good quality products and there is a need for cost-effective products. So with that desire and to be able to service a large section of the community, I thought of setting up my own pharmaceutical company so that I could give employment to a couple of needy people. And that's one of the reasons we decided to set up the manufacturing operation in a backward area of Halol, where there were no industries at that time, and all the villagers were either moving to cities for employment or they were just working in the fields. So when we started, we were very happy to see young boys coming for employment, and I am happy to share with you that those 10 people who joined us initially are still there with us.
That's great, sir, actually, and thank you for actually providing a very good working conditions, actually, because it's only because if the employer provides good working condition, if he behaves properly, only then a person is going to remain with the company for 40 years, or else that is actually purely absent nowadays, actually.
That reminds me that, over a period of time, everybody wants to improve their lifestyle, and no amount of money is enough for people at any level in the industry or any level in the society. So these workers, as advised by their colleagues in other industries, one day after some 10 years in the operation, they said, "Sab, posata nahi hai." So we want higher wages, and we have been very liberal in giving increments and things, so looking to the inflation and the industry practice. So he said, one of them said that we are giving me 100 rupees, but that the next door factory is giving me 200 rupees per day. So I said, if I was in your place, you should not even wait till tomorrow. You should just leave this shift and join the other company, because 200 rupees, double the salary. No amount of convincing me is we are going to agree to 2 times the salary. So don't waste your time with me and don't waste your time. Just jump, resign and go and join the other company immediately, because you will get 2 times the salary. So he started looking at me. He says, look, कुछ सोच समझ के बोलो. That is something which we can discuss, but if you say you want 2 times the salary, then that's the right place to go. After that, they never asked me, they never gave me any demand, because we have been liberal and they have been understanding, because I had told them that if you don't find it suitable, don't waste your time, just simply go and join the other company. So, and that's how over 40 years they are still, all the 10 of them are still there.
Sir, can you please tell us more about the products and services delivered by Century Pharmaceuticals Limited, sir?
We are manufacturing pharmaceutical raw materials, so a wide range of antibiotics are manufactured by us, like azithromycin, clarithromycin, aroxithromycin, and all the macrolides. We also manufacture chloramphenicol, oxytetracycline, tetracycline. These are all antibiotics. Then we have a range of vitamins like calcitriol, alpha-calcidol, calcipotriol. These are vitamin D3 derivatives, and in India there is a lot of shortage of deficiency of vitamin D3. Then we have some anticoagulants like acinocomarol. Then we have some erectile dysfunction products like sildenafil, tadalafil, vardenafil, avanafil, flibanserin. So, and we have some anti-renal products as well, like sevelamer hydrochloride and sevelamer carbonate. One steroid we manufacture is fluticasone propionate. So, and one antipsychotic product is flufenazine deconate. So, it's a wide range of bulk active pharmaceuticals manufactured by us.
Sir, sir, we'd like to know more about your life, actually, where you were born, how you actually got your initial school education and then college education, and your how you started this manufacturing company, and your journey till date, sir.
Well, I was born in Vadodara, and at a tender age of 3, my parents went to East Africa, so I went along with them. My schooling was in East Africa. While I was in East Africa, one of my uncles, whom I respected a lot, he told me there is one college called Indian Institute of Technology, and that's one of the best engineering colleges in India, and I should target to be joining that college, and then that would be a good education for me. I did not even know what was Indian Institute of Technology in school, but when after finishing school I came to India, then I realized that Indian Institute of Technology, we had to do a lot of hard work to get admitted. So 1 year I worked very hard, and finally I got admitted to IIT, and during that time, I had decided that, I want to start my own industry. But another uncle of mine, he suggested that I should get some work experience before getting into business, because there was no business experience in our family. And then after finishing college, I immediately joined one company where I had many options, and out of the other various options, I selected the one company which I thought will give me good training and good education rather than good salary. So it was in fact the lowest paid job out of the 5 options I had. I selected just because I wanted to learn how to run a pharmaceutical company. And that during that 4-year time, I really learnt a lot. Initially to develop some new products, new processes, and then later on the company shifted me to the international division, where I was in charge of a project. So I was involved with the design, then I was involved with the procurement of the equipment, installation of the equipment. Later on they put me as a production engineer, production manager. So I had the full experience right from design to implementation and to manufacture. So after about 4 or 5 years with them, I left them and started my own industry. And to start an industry is not so easy, with limited means, because we were not part of a business family. We had very limited means, but the government was very encouraging. The government was encouraging young engineers to set up industries at that time, because that was an opportunity for employment. And they were also encouraging people to set up industries in backward areas where there were no industries at that time. I'm talking about 1980. So we got a very good financial arrangement by the government, and in fact, since I didn't have enough money, they also invested in my equity. So with almost 95% of the amount as loans, and with only barely very little as my own seed capital, we started the industry. And with no experience, it's a little hard to learn how to put it together, manufacture, sell, get the money, arrange the finance. So it's with one-man show. It was difficult. 2-3 years we struggled, but once we got on the track, within 5 years we could pay off all the loans.
Can you share a few of the challenges that you faced? Because initially, I mean, long time back, by starting this company and settling this company, and how you actually tackled those challenges and overcame those problems, sir?
So one of the major challenges was finance. So as I told you, the government was very flexible and they gave almost 80% term loans, and then whatever 20% was my equity, I didn't have that part also. That also the government came and gave me an equity loan of 2 lakhs of rupees. So that almost bridged everything. But it was like just making it happen. So when it is like that, whenever you make a very ideal situation, when something goes not according to plan, then everything falls. So we had challenges. Then after the equipment and everything was in place, I remember one equipment, the manufacturer said that you give me advance, and once you give me advance, then I will release the equipment from my factory to be dispatched to your factory. The funding agency said that you bring it to factory and we give you the money. So, and the supplier says you give me the money and I give you the equipment. So then I went to the owner of that glass line factory in Karamsad. I told him, Jeta Kaka, I got loans, but he says you bring it to site, I give you the money. You say you give the money and I give you the equipment. Now I am in between, I am in the sandwich, So you please trust me, and that the moment it lands in my factory, I will get a certificate. The next day I make a payment. So he looked at me and says, gentlemen, in my factory I do not dispatch the good unless I get the money, whether it is Birla, Tata, or it is Janak Seth. So I said, sir, then I am stuck, I am not going to get the equipment because my funding agency very clear. So he made an exception. He says, I want to see that you honor your word. In those days it was 6 lakhs of rupees, not a small amount. But I I sat on the vehicle, to bring the equipment to my factory, unloaded it and got a certificate. And next day I told Jeta Kaka, look, I got your draft, I'm sending it to you. So he says, now you have established your credential that you honor your word. Similarly, when we started manufacturing, one supplier of acetone, I remember now that you asked me, he said, you are a new guy, we don't know you, you make advance. I said, look, I am a fresher, I need some support from you. He says, okay, I give you 30 days, but make sure that you make the payment on the 30th day. Now, in the banks, every quarter they debit the interest for the credit that you have taken for the quarter. So I had made a plan to make the payment to that guy, and unfortunately I forgot that the bank is going to debit the interest. So the bank debited the interest before I could make the payment to the supplier. And then I had to call the supplier. I said, sorry sir, this has happened. He said that everybody does this. I also thought that you are a good man, but now you also done what others are doing. So now how much time do you need? I don't want to argue with you. I want to give you one more chance. So I said, look, I'll take another 15 days to make the payment. So he says, okay. For him this was a small amount. For me it was life and death. But on the 10th day I made the payment and called him, look sir, I'm sorry the bank had debited, but now I got some funds, I'm making the first payment to you. So he says, now henceforth I will give you 60 days credit, not 30, because you seem to be a honorable person. So the commitment that you make builds up your credibility in the market, and with that we could build up the credibility for suppliers. On the customer side, we also worked equally hard to see that the customer is happy. Once one customer is happy, he recommends to others, and that builds your clientele. And most of the time, those successful people always make commitments and honor them. Some of the people who are not so successful, they forget about the commitments they make to the customers, and that's how they fail.
We'd like to know what are your current job responsibilities, sir, actually, currently in your company?
Well, actually, I am the managing director. I look after all the operations, manufacturing, production people, finance, marketing. So I am overall in charge. Although I am a chemical engineer, I started actually doing the manufacturing myself, then graduated doing the management function. So we look after research, we look after future projects. I am in charge of the overall company.
Sir, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses, sir?
Well, strengths is, I believe that I am a very fast decision maker. So most of the time in the industry, people take time to decide, whereas many people say that I take decisions very spontaneously. And because if you see the success ratio, because a decision is to be taken when things are not clear. So you take a decision because the data is insufficient. You can go right, you can go wrong. But the more rights you have, that builds up your confidence and your self-confidence. So therefore your decision making becomes more and more successful. So that, I believe, is one of my key strengths, and I am very optimistic person. So I have a positive attitude. I look at positive side of things rather than looking at the negative side of things. So they say if you think right, everything works right. So that's how I look at it.
Sir, how would you define leadership according to you, sir?
Well, a leader is supposed to innovate, and he is supposed to bring in new ideas, new processes and new things which are cost effective and which are durable with time, because so many processes get outdated, so many products get outdated, there is so much of transformation taking place. So you should be in the right place rather than being the laggard. So innovation is a very important thing. And next important thing, as a leader, you are supposed to be able to develop a strong, cohesive and united team. If you have a strong united team, then the success of your organization is more likely to happen. And you should be in a position to harmonize among the various people that work for you.
Sir, how do you develop leadership qualities among your team members, sir?
Well, to be able to have good leaders with you, because each department has a manager who is a leader of his own team. You have to allow him to innovate in his own department and to start thinking in a innovative way, so that he can bring about processes which are cost effective, processes which guarantee good quality products to be made. So you must allow him to innovate, you must allow him to think, and give him an opportunity to even fail one or two times. Then only he will dedicate himself to innovation and trying to bring about improvement in whatever activity he is doing. So that's what we try to do. And number two is we try to develop a strong team so that every person in the team is important. and it's like a chain. Unless the chain is complete, the work is incomplete. So we try to bring about that thought process in the teammates, that as a team we work. If we don't work as a team, we all fall. So I think that has helped many of my managers to be innovators, many of my managers to work as a cohesive team, and that brings about a lot of synergy and a lot of good work.
Sir, do you believe motivation is important? And how do you motivate your team members, sir?
Motivation is one of the most important thing for getting good performance from your employees, and I think no amount of motivation is enough. So in our company we have one session every week. We try to motivate all the people. We try to bring about the good performances of each of the people who worked, and we try to encourage those who have not worked hard enough, to enable them to understand that they need to dedicate themselves, they need to work a little harder than what they have done, and that's how we try to motivate each and every person. A highly motivated team performs very well.
Sir, we have seen, sir, actually that in the past century, actually, it was actually basically Europe and America, actually, which were dominant by many good innovations, which are helpful to all the mankind. So how can we flourish innovations in India, actually?
I think in India we have been sort of a downtrodden country. We have got a lot of centuries of domination by Mughals and centuries of British Raj. So we have a psychology that we are a little bit inferior than the superior white people, and that's how we have constrained ourselves from thinking and innovating. But today, if you see the information technology sector, IT, India is one of the top in this field in the world. So I remember once we have a lot of suppliers from China, and it is our practice to go and visit all the suppliers to see and to understand whether he is a reliable supplier or not. So we go and audit and meet the chief of each and every supplier. So I met one chief of one of our key starting raw material, and then he told me that he is into pharmaceutical, he is into power generation, he is into motorbikes, and he is into real estate, into many industries. So I asked him one simple question: in the world, who is the smartest among all the communities, India, China, Italy, Europe, Africa and all that? Who is the smartest of all of them? So without thinking he says Indian. I said, you need not pamper me because I am Indian. I think the Chinese is the smartest of all of them. He says, you asked me the question, who is the smartest? The smartest is the Indian. If you ask me who is the most hardworking, I would have said Chinese. So he says in IT you need a lot of ability to think and innovate. So you guys are very innovative and you can excel in IT, and that's why you people are very, very good. So I think even if you see in USA, a lot of Indians are into IT field and they are doing extremely well. One of my friends, he started an IT company in 1995 or so. In the year 2000, just because he was an Indian, he says, I want to sell my company. And I was amazed that he got $33 million in those only 5 years of working. So just because it's an Indian company, they said your value is very high. So I think with time, India will take a lead.
Sir, because you're the managing director of the company, you have a lot of responsibilities also. You have to actually make sure a lot of things also. So sometimes you would have fallen under stress also. how do you manage your stress, sir?
Well, I believe stress is in the mind, and you have a full working day, 24 hours, out of which part of it you take your rest, and the rest is your working time. But if you are not able to finish your work in time, that brings about stress. And if you are not able to finish your work in the allotted time, it is mainly because of your procrastination. You put off decisions, you put off your work, I will do it later. And that's why the work gets incomplete, and that brings stress. So I try to, as I told you, I am a little bit fast in taking decisions. So I believe that every day's work I must finish today. I don't want to carry over till tomorrow. So if it takes little half an hour more than usual, I try to finish today's work because there is no carryover. Because tomorrow new things are going to come, and yesterday's baggage, if you spill over to today, then today's baggage to tomorrow, that brings stress. So I try to avoid the stress, and that's why I remain quite fresh.
Sir, you have about 40 years of experience in pharmaceutical industry. And so do you feel that you have, are you able to give enough time to your family members, your friend, and socially? Because when you started the factory, actually, at those days, definitely you would have met many challenges, how do you manage your time, sir? This is the question that I'm asking.
Well, that's a good question. Number one, initially, as I told you, we had a lot of challenges. So, in fact, I used to, when Halol is a good 1.5 hours away from city, and in those days there were not enough, we didn't have a car of our own, so we had to depend upon public transport. So I used to stay in the factory for 1 week and come back during the weekends. So I could meet my family only once a week. But they accepted it because they knew that these are the hard times. As time became a little bit more easy, we had our own vehicle, so I could go up and down every day. But even then, initial few years was little more time consuming, and but my wife was very accommodative, and she handled all the family responsibilities while I handled the professional work, and over a period of time we could get some more time in the evening with the family, and also spend time with friends and our associates. Gradually I could be part of the industry association. I was very much involved with the industry association, bring about new changes in the government laws, all the archaic laws, we tried to convince the government that, these need to be changed to make it more user friendly, to make it, what we call today ease of doing business. And a lot of progress was seen, and that gives us a lot of confidence and a lot of motivation to do more in the area. So I was working with the local industry association, and I was also involved with in this building. I was the president for more than 15 years. Then I was also president of my own community. So I could spend time, and that gives us a lot of opportunity to meet new people. And to be successful in life, it's all about your networking and your ability to meet different kinds of people, because a small reference can help you a lot in industry or in professional life. So we have tried to balance both of them.
Sir, basically we are Indian engineers. We are deeply rooted to our soil, our land, our culture. And so irrespective of the fact that whether our parents are literate or illiterate, their teachings and their upbringings actually, their inputs plays an important prominent role in shaping our life to success. So in case if you can please share a few of the teachings of your mother and a few teachings of your father, which still crops up in your mind whenever you're stressed out, whenever you have to take some critical decision, and which boosts you, which provides you enough energy and all kind of positivity to deal with that kind of situation, and you come up with flying colors.
Yeah, that reminds me, my mother always used to tell me that, the Hindu philosophy, the Indian philosophy, that you have to do your hard work and God will give you what is due to you. So your job is to do the hard work. The more hard work you do, the more chances that you will be lucky, and therefore you should not worry how hard you worked, but you continue to do the hard work. So I think that has been ingrained in my mind, and that helps me to work sufficiently hard, over a period of time without losing enthusiasm or disappointment. Because in many of the decisions we make, sometimes we don't make the perfect decision. So that time I remember my mother, and that helps me to dedicate myself once again. My father used to be a banker, so he taught me, because I saw him as a young boy. He used to bring a lot of work to home. He was a banker, and he was an accountant in the bank. So all the customers used to open LCs, and he used to bring 10-20 LCs at home. So even as a young boy, I knew what was an LC, which generally people don't come to know till they are grown up. Because he used to sign those LCs every day in the night. And that was one decision I made when I was young, that I'll never bring work home. Because that whatever little time we had, common time in the family, he would be still busy doing that. We used to tell him that you finish this, you come 1 hour late, but you finish it and come. Don't bring this home. But he used to bring every day some stuff, and for his signature. So, and he was a banker, so he taught me a lot about how to deal with finance, and being an engineer, generally we are not very much conversant with financial activities. I remember recently we had an interaction with the bank, and the amount of discussion we had, he told me, I still do not believe that you are an engineer. I think you are an accountant. So I believe I learned a lot from my father how to do the financial part, and it's a good combination that we are able to complement our engineering skills with some finance.
Sir, can you share any one incident of your life which says that parents are my God?
Well, everybody talks about God, and then we say that God will do this and God will do that. I haven't seen God so far, but I see God in my parents, because they brought me into this life, and they have looked after me, in every, whatever little good things, bad things I have done, they have always encouraged us. So I take them as God, because the real God I have not seen, and I don't know when I will see. But these gods, I see them every day. So I take them, and their blessings, I take them as God's blessings.
Sir, can you share any one incident from your life, from a long span of professional life, 40 years of experience, which loudly says that there is hope in life? So don't get upset, don't think negatively too much, don't drain yourself, wait, something positive is going to happen. So any such incidents?
Yeah, that reminds me that, once I was going to the factory one day, and I was driving very carefully on the safe side of the road. Then one truck came on the absolute wrong side, and then I did not know where to go, and I tried to be almost on the edge of the road before I would jump into the ditch. And I thought the last minute the truck will avoid the accident, but he did not. He just banged into me. And then I was stuck. I was driving a Maruti van, and in the Maruti van there is no protection in the front. So the front side and my leg, they were all squeezed, and with that impact, the door got locked automatically. And then I was just struggling there, and I was watching. I was bleeding, but I was still conscious, but I could not move my legs because there was a fracture, and it was too much and there was no space for me to get out. So then I saw, it was a morning time, all the people were going to their factories. Many of them I knew. They saw me and they all left. They saw me and they left. I said, look, the people known to me are not even bothered to find out how they can help me, because I was stuck and I could not get out of the car unless somebody literally pulled me out of the car. Then after 20 minutes, there was a lull and nothing happened, no car going this way, that way. Then I was thinking, what is happening to me? Whether I'm going to be saved or I'm going to collapse here itself. Then suddenly one jeep came, and then he passed. He saw that I was stuck. So I said, like everybody else, he's also watching me and then going. Then after some 50 feet away, he stopped and came back. And he says, do you need help? I said, yes, definitely I need help. I'm stuck, I cannot get out. So he broke open the door, he managed to pull me out, and then he says, what do you want to do? I said, if you can put me to SSG hospital, because in those days any accident, no private hospital would entertain. You had to go to the government hospital. Put me to SSG hospital, I'll be obliged. I didn't know his name, I still don't know his name. He just dropped me, put me in charge with the doctor, and then left. So I believe that, if you have a hope, the hope is always going to come and save you.
Sir, who's your favorite school teacher and why, sir?
I had a chemistry teacher, and somehow he liked me very much. So he used to say, whenever you are free, come to the lab. And there used to be a lab and there was to be his office. And inside that office there were one or two chairs. So he says, whenever you are free and you have nothing to do, come and sit and you can just read or do whatever, or you want to do some chemistry experiment yourself, you can do. So because of that opportunity, I used to go to that chemistry lab, and that gave me a lot of interest in chemistry. Then slowly he started telling me, whenever we used to write exams, so he would take my answer sheet and give me the rest. He says, you check all these, be honest and give the correct answer. So that improved my knowledge, because I used to correct and people used to write different things and I used to give fair marks. And he saw one or two supplementaries and he said, you are very fair, you are just doing like what I would have done. So every exam he used to give, he'll remove mine and give the rest too. And any question in the chemistry class, he used to be our teacher also, any chemistry class, he would ask, I would always raise my hand, but he would not give me the chance. Till everybody else could not answer, then it was my turn, because he says, you know, so I'm not going to ask you. Then every time there were difficult questions, I used to be the one who is answering. So it gave me a lot of interest, and basically interest means you excel. And that's how I became more passionate about chemistry, and I used to perform very well. So I used to like him, and that gave me little education that if you are passionate about anything, you can easily excel.
Sir, whom do you consider your role model or guru, sir?
Well, a role model or guru, I think Dhirubhai Ambani is a very good example, because from nothing he could make something. He was not even enough educated. One of my classmates used to tell me that, his family is from Aden, and Dhirubhai was also staying in Aden at that time. And he told me that there were 17 Gujarati families in Aden, and Dhirubhai was one of them, and there were the other 16. So, and Dhirubhai used to be filling petrol in the car in those days. And everybody used to say, poor Dhiru, poor Dhiru, we have to help him. So those were the days of Dhiru, and then that Dhiru came to Ahmedabad, and we know the story thereafter. And his father used to tell me that, we used to always motivate this Dhiru, don't worry, some good thing is going to happen. And he used to curse. And he used to say, Sala main petrol bharta hun, ek din main petrol khud banaunga. And that's what he did. So that's again another story that if you are passionate about anything, you can make it happen.
Sir, would you like to thank your wife for her support and help?
Well, everybody says your wife is the other half, and for me, she has really been the other half. For a good 20 years, I was busy with the factory, and she used to look after the household with my parents and the children going through school and all that. One by one, the children started going for their higher education out of the house. And then after both of them, we have two children, so both of them left. Then she said, I'm going to become more active in some lioness club and this social club and that. So I said, look, lioness and all is all about ego, and you have to satisfy somebody's ego or somebody else's ego, and somebody else will satisfy your ego. So this is no good thing. Instead, you just come to the factory. I got a lot of work to do. So for 23 years, she was busy with the children. Thereafter, she has started coming to the factory. And now I'm very happy to tell you that she actually runs the factory. I don't go to the factory. She is handling the factory. And so in that way, I have a complete half. She does exactly what I'm not able to do. And that makes a complete one between the two of us.
Sir, how do you spend your holidays, sir?
Well, we like to get out of the work environment to rejuvenate ourselves, to think out of the box. So many times me and my wife, we go on holidays out. We are good travelers. We like to travel a lot. So I travel also for business. So whenever we go on business, it's very hard to find a vacation time. But whenever we go out for business, we try to extend by a couple of days and extend into a holiday in those locations, because we exhibit in different countries. We're exporting to more than 50 countries around the world. So many times we have exhibitions. So whenever we have an exhibition, we spend 3-4 days extra, or sometimes if we are lucky, 1 week extra, and tour. So it's an opportunity for us to refresh ourselves, to think differently, and rejuvenate ourselves, our minds, our bodies. And we get to meet each other out of the work environment, so we can think differently.
Sir, how can we save energy at plant level, sir?
Well, I believe the improvement process is never ending, and we can always save energy. And in our company, we put our mind into finding wastages where there are wastages and try to plug the wastages. Then there are a lot of leakages. There are a lot of irrelevant processes which take place. We try to cut them. I'll give you an example. When we started the factory, we used to take 25 kg batches. So we had some equipment. As I told you, we had limited means, so we started with some small equipment. As our production grew, then we needed, the easiest thing was कि एक equipment है उसको double करो, then you can double the production. I said no, we have to think innovation and find out ways how we can make more from the same equipment. So from 25 kg we started making 50 kg batches, and today in the same equipment we are making 150 kg batches. So it's a 6-fold increase without any capital investment. So this is one kind of saving energy, because the energy required to manufacture 25 kg or 150 kg is practically the same, but then you cut the energy many times. So we try to apply this process everywhere and try to cut the cost. And many times, as we were talking before, that there are noises in the equipment. When there is a major noise, there is something which is disturbing the equipment. So if maybe we have forgotten to oil the machine, small things, which we try to do, you can easily save 10-20% of energy consumed. So over a period of time, I think we have done quite a bit. But even today, I don't believe that we have done all. We keep finding opportunities to cut energy.
Sir, your concern about environment protection and pollution control in industrial sector, sir?
I think when we started, the effluent and the environment control was very elementary. Even then, we put up a solar evaporation pan so that, whatever effluent we generated, we dried it off. It worked for 10, 20, 15 years. After that, they said, no, this won't work. Because most of the other people, what they did is they used the pan as a pit, so that the effluent would go and soak into the ground. So one day I remember the pollution fellows came and said, "Ye sab natak hai, or you are doing nothing, and then you are just allowing it to percolate in the ground." And then I showed him, I challenged him that we are not that type of. Everybody says the same thing. Then one day, I got rid of that solar pan, and I said, okay, we are going to make a aerator and in the same place. So when we removed the pan, luckily for me, he came. So I said, sir, you were saying that all the effluent is getting percolated. Look at this dry soil. There's not even a drop of effluent in this. So I challenge you that day. Now I'm proving you that, we are not that type, who play foul. But we have been worried about environment since the early days, and today we have a complete zero discharge facility. We completely treat all the effluent and reuse all the treated effluent. And we have a multi-effect evaporator where we strip all the solvents and we reuse the solvents.
Sir, how do you improve your technical knowledge, sir?
Innovation, as I told you, is the key for growth and success. So to be innovative, we need to supplement our knowledge. And one of the good areas is to read books and magazines, which we do. We also participate in exhibitions where we come in interface with technology providers and new technology changes taking place in the environment, in the industry. And we also seek help from some technical experts, because over a period of time, lot of technology changes take place, lot of advances are taking place. We may not be hands-on with all of them, so we have to acquire. And nowadays, internet is a very good source for good knowledge of what is happening around the world.
Sir, what kind of maintenance is carried out at your plant? Or in case if you can please share your maintenance plan in detail, sir.
Initially, we used to have a lot of breakdowns. So once, when I was actually running the shop floor, then I told you I was very much aware about, the different noises of the plant, and we would come to know whenever something goes wrong. But as I, became dependent on people to run the shop floor, they were not that capable of managing all the equipment, and we used to get into a lot of breakdowns. And I became merciless and very ruthless with the people when it was a breakdown. So we made a vow with all the people, as you said that, you must have a strong team. So I said, I don't want breakdown at all. You do what you want, but you must ensure that you do the preventive maintenance. And that is some iron discipline we have inculcated in the people. So we have a set routine of all the equipment, and we have a preventive maintenance. And whenever there is something untoward happening, we have multi-purpose plant, so we have different products happening. So if we find that one of the product there is a problem, we shut that down and concentrate on the other products and rectify the equipment. So after that day, we have never had a breakdown at all. So, and that is the biggest success, I think, in running a maintenance-free plant.
Sir, in case if you can please share few maintenance tips with our readers.
Well, Well, as I said, simple things like oiling, greasing, and ensuring that the equipment is in tip-top condition. Those are the simple things which we can do and avoid any. Every equipment has its capacity. So if you know that each equipment has a loading of, let's say, 100 kilos, then you should not overload the equipment. If you overload it, then there is a chance that you might force the equipment to break down. So if you use it in the right way, if you maintain all the seals, if you maintain all the gaskets in the proper way, I don't think you have any problem for breakdown. But you should have a yardstick of 0 breakdowns. Then you will be forced to do the preventive maintenance in time.
Sir, in case if you can please share the repair tips of any of the mechanical or electrical equipments which are installed in the factory.
Repairing, as I told you, whenever you feel that there is equipment is not giving the performance as it is rated to give, either it is increasing the amperage that normally you find that it is consuming 10 ampere, suddenly it started drawing more power, then you try to find out the root cause analysis, you will find something is wrong. If you repair it in time, then you will get back to your original ampere load. And these are the simple parameters. For each equipment there will be 1 or 2 parameters which are critical, and if you follow that, I don't think you will get into any difficulty at all. Most people are not careful about these parameters, they allow it to deteriorate and then get into a crisis, which we should avoid.
Sir, please name few machines or equipments which are heart of your factory, sir.
We have reactors, we have pumps, we have compressors, we have generating sets, we have fluid bed dryers, we have filters, we have exhaust fans, we have boilers, we have chilling plants. So we have different kinds of equipment, either process equipment or utility equipment. As I told you, we also have effluent control equipment. So all the equipment, each and every equipment has its own set of guidelines which we should use to get the optimum performance from each one of them.
Sir, you purchase machinery or equipments directly from the manufacturers, or you purchase from traders also, sir?
We generally purchase from manufacturers. We like to give specifications of each equipment that we would like to purchase, and we are a little bit conservative, so we always design the equipment with more longevity in mind. And I am happy to share with you the equipment that we first purchased 42 years ago still works in the same condition as new. The performance of that equipment is absolutely the same. In fact, the equipment that we purchased later, where we were little complacent, is not giving as good performance as the first set of equipment we purchased, because we had put our mind and designed it very personally. So the supplier, the fabricator says, this equipment 8 mm steel is good enough. I said, no, I want 10 mm. So I think that may be the reason that we looked at the long life rather than the initial extra cost.
Sir, what are your purchasing parameters, sir?
We purchasing parameter from, you are talking about equipment, from the fabricators. We look at their credibility, their workmanship, we look at their commitment. The important thing is what kind of steel they are using, whether they are using proper steel or not, and with certificates, and whether they are testing it properly. Because traders, they have a habit of supplying the cheaper grade rather than the standard grade. And many people are not able to find out the grade of the steel that they are buying, and they don't spend that little extra to test it. It takes a few thousand rupees to test it, but they said, nahi, usne bola hai, to hoga. So that's not the right approach. You should be thorough. You should test it properly. Use the right steel. If you use the right steel, if you use the right processes for welding, for fabrication, you will have a good equipment. If it is a good equipment, it will last many decades.
Sir, would you like to thank any local machinery or equipment manufacturing company which would have helped you during any of your critical times, sir?
Yes, I think I mentioned about that glass-lined equipment, which we had a problem. Either you pay first or you receive and then pay. That machine, a very critical machine, is a glass-lined equipment. There is a glass inside, and if you don't handle it well, the glass can break. If you chill or if you heat the equipment very fast, rapidly, it can crack. So I think we faced one problem of the wall at the bottom. It started giving way in the early days because we were new and we did not use it in the right way, and we damaged the wall, the head of the wall. So we had to replace the wall. These walls, they have long delivery periods, and again I went back to the Jetha Kaka. I said, Jetha Kaka, you help me supply the equipment on little credit, few days. So now you please help me with this wall, because I got only one glass-lined reactor and I am stuck. So actually he had to supply one similar wall to some Atul Industries or some company. So he says कि उसको कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा, इसको दे दो. And I cannot thank him enough, to go out of turn and supply the wall to me, because I was under a lot of production pressure and I would have delayed supplies to my customers. So I cannot thank him enough. First to supply the equipment and then to give the wall at the right place.
Sir, please name a few manufacturers, companies' names whose machinery or equipments you're using in your plants.
Yeah, we have fluid bed dryer is also very critical equipment for us. It was a particular design. We got it designed to tailor make for our process. And there is a company called Sapphire in Mumbai. And there is Steel Fab here in Vadodara. They made all the reactors for us. So those reactors, 1981 model, is still working beautifully without any maintenance, because they are really done very well.
Sir, kindly name one manufacturer which has been blacklisted by your company. And we are asking this question only in good faith so that other process engineers can be educated or they can get enlightened about these people, and they can. Sir, kindly name one manufacturer which has been blacklisted by your company. And we are asking this question only in good faith so that other process engineers can be educated or they can get enlightened about these people, and they can take enough precautions before dealing with these people so that we can avoid minor, medium size or large size industrial accidents which can save lives.
Yes, it's always good to be away from these blacklisted companies because they can create a lot of problem for you. So we work a little bit in anticipation, and what we do is we screen the suppliers or we screen the fabricators before we buy the equipment. We check their credentials, we check whom they have supplied, we get the feedback from the customers, and then make an opinion whether we should entrust our job to them. And as a result, I am happy to tell you that we have not had any problem to blacklist anybody. We might blacklist him before purchase, but then we don't have the experience of any bad supplier or a bad fabricator, so that we have a chance to blacklist him. So we have been very lucky that way.
Sir, your suggestion or advice to young maintenance engineers?
Yes, young engineers, they come out of college, they have a lot of hopes and they want to do very well. Nowadays everybody wants to be a millionaire in no time. So everybody has a right to be, but they need to focus their strengths They need to understand what they are good at. They need to understand what they can do very well and try to get into those jobs where they can perform very well. If they like the job that they are doing, they will definitely do very well. And if they do very well, I don't know any employer who will not motivate a good worker. It may take time, he may not encourage you in 3 months, 6 months or 1 year as per your desire, but if you continue to do the good work, he is going to encourage you and promote you or give you more responsibilities. So I think all the engineers who when they are studying in college, they should dedicate themselves, study in detail what they are studying, and then apply when they get into industry. As one of your speakers says, when after many years we forget what we studied in college. So that's a good opportunity for young engineers who have just come out from college, learning all the theory. They can apply the theory in practice and contribute to the workplace, which will fetch them rewards.
Sir, would you like to share anything else with us which will provide guidance, education and motivation to various engineers working in various process industry verticals, sir?
Yes, in the industry there are various types of engineering jobs, and therefore I said if you have, let's say you have studied in one type of discipline, and for some reason you are employed in another discipline. An engineer is an engineer, he is not branded. He can do any type of work. He can design, he can fabricate, he can do manufacturing, he can do innovation, R&D. So I think everybody is gifted with all the functions. You should be able to, wherever you have your workplace, you can contribute to your own what you learned in college, and also you can learn while you are on the job from your fellows and from your seniors, and you can contribute. So I believe that a little bit of hard work, and if you focus your energy on the job per se, there are a lot of opportunities for improvement, for innovation, for reducing cost, reducing energy consumption. Simple things can make magnificent performances and results. So I think there is a lot one can do.
How can we increase safety at plant level, sir?
Yeah, this is a very vital question today, where you see sometimes in the newspapers there is an explosion in this factory and there is a fire in this place. There are fires in multi-storied buildings also. So this is because of bad management and lack of knowledge of fire safety. I am very happy to tell you that we have a 40-year industry experience, but in my 40 years I have not had a single injury, nor a single accident, nor a single fire. So when we started, they used to say that you need a fire extinguisher. So one fire extinguisher was good for the whole factory, because you need some showpiece कि भाई हमारे पास है. But then one is never enough, because you have such a big place, and if the fire takes place in the other corner of the factory where there is no fire extinguisher, by the time you bring the fire extinguisher to that place, it has done a lot of damage. And today we have, I think yesterday only we made a count, we have 66 fire extinguishers in almost every corner of the factory, to ensure that we can nip the thing in the bud. When there is a fire, we can immediately stop it. So what we do, fire extinguishers have got a shelf life of 2 years, 3 years. So before the shelf life, we use them as a training for people. God forbid if there is a fire, now what to do? So we try to make a demo fire and then try to put it off with the so that today if you do it and next time he does it, so we take turns so that everybody has got hands-on experience. But the most important thing is the preventive is the best thing. So we try to educate the workers how to prevent the fire. And there are certain inflammable items which sometimes we are forced to use because it's part of the process. So we have to be absolutely careful how to handle these inflammable things, to avoid sparks, to avoid operations where there could be sparks. So if you have a proper education to the people and if they are vigilant about it, no fire takes place.
Sir, it was pleasure talking with you, sir. Actually, we know that you're a busy man, but still you gave us ample of time. You shared the insights of your personal and professional life sketch with us. We are thankful to you, sir. Thank you very much for giving your valuable time, sir.
Thank you. I also enjoyed the interview with you, and a lot of old memories came out with all those questions that you raised, and I wish you all the best.